Hi Scorpio, welcome to your reading today. So we do have some cards that are already drawn for you guys as well as a rune. And then we also may draw some additional cards during the reading just to make sure that you have as much information as possible. So let's get started. So if you are someone who really enjoys like a non-spiritual approach to tarot, this is definitely your channel. We also like to do a lot of like mental health related skills practice and learning different stuff like that if you're new here. All right, so before we continue with the rest of these cards, let's just talk about what we have here in front of us. So the first one that I want to bring to our attention is this card here by the book. We're going to read this one straight out of the book because I feel like every time I read this message, it's very clear, concise, and I want you guys to also use some of your own gut feeling to gather what you feel like this message is giving to you. So this card in the upright position is all about abiding by social rules, conformity, respecting cultural or family customs, as well as universal laws. And although this card is upright here, it was drawn in the reverse. So it's almost like you guys are stepping outside of the box of anything that involved conformity, sticking to rules and expectations on, your individuality, your authenticity, your gender identity, your style of clothing, your behaviors, all of these different, aspects of yourself, sort of the influences that you've experienced in society, pushing away from those things. So there's really this opportunity where you guys are having where you are becoming very conscious of the ways in which you have felt influenced by other people. So there's, this sort of like twofold aspect where, for some of you guys, I feel like it's a few of you guys where maybe you have felt influenced by specific individuals whose mindsets kind of aligned with, larger groups. So let's say, for example, you grew up in a specific religious household and your main interaction with your mom, and your mom sort of pushed these ideals of that religion onto you. So you can kind of see that aspect there of you dealing with an individual person, but also through that person being influenced by a larger group. So there's this sort of this pullback from that influence. That way you can get a larger picture of the world, of society. Like there's sort of this feeling of if I can step away and step back and get some more perspective, I can not only get clarity on reality in general, but on my reality, like the way in which I want to view the world, the way in which I want to experience the world. Sorry if you can hear a bottle moving on the floor. It is one of the kittens. Hopefully they come into camera. That's why I tried to pan it this way, that way you guys can kind of see them come up here and walk by because they love to say hi. But yeah, you can kind of get that sense with this. So the reverse message says, now is the time for a real change in consciousness as you are incited to revolt. Challenge the structures that are limiting authentic progress. It is not enough to rebel in small ways. This is a call to revolution. Focus on what you really want to achieve, regardless of whether it feels so far outside the box that the established order may reject it. So I want to pause before we continue doing the rest of the message with this card, because I think what is very important to mention with this is the fact that whatever you are choosing to step away from, or whatever you are choosing to step into, is going to sort of shake a foundation that's not even your foundation. Like this feels like, for example, stepping into something that society deems as unacceptable, even though the reality of it is that this is not unacceptable. Society has just placed a judgment. Society has just set an expectation for what you are allowed and not allowed to do. And because you are deciding that F this, I'm going to do what I want to do, it shakes the foundation of the people you come across, the groups of people you come across. I want to say especially people who are totally unconscious to the fact that they are being influenced by the same groups that you may have felt like indoctrinated you growing up, or unconscious to the same social and cultural norms that you have been impacted by. And so I feel like you become this individual who, I almost want to say, irritates people's unconscious thoughts. Like, that's literally the way I can think about it. Like, you are this and becoming this embodiment of not giving an F and telling yourself, I'm either going to be authentic or I don't even want to do this. Like, that's so extreme, but like, you kind of get what I'm saying. It's like sort of an all or nothing type of energy because you guys have felt the weight of believing that you were living authentically through the guise of really living through the indoctrination of what people told you should or shouldn't be, you should or shouldn't do, to later find out that that wasn't actually you. That didn't really align with you. And so you've gone through this process of like realizing how heavy it was to not even know the degree to which you had been shaped by others. And so that's why I mentioned you maybe having this experience where other people sort of have their unconscious mind be provoked a bit when you just go about your day-to-day living, because I feel like it also unconsciously reminds them of that same experience that they aren't aware that they would have if they were to really take a second to ask questions, the why questions about why do I do that? Why do I believe that? Why do I behave this way? Why do I think this? Those questions that you were brave enough or willing to ask, because I want to be careful in even saying brave, because that almost makes the assumption that in not asking the question, you're not brave. But I know that it goes beyond just whether or not you're brave or not. We grow up in, a lot of people, we grow up in these bubbles and we don't get a greater perspective. We don't get an opportunity to look outside of ourselves, and you almost feel like this opportunity for other people. And so I feel like this is coming up just to mention it because it may shed light on why certain people have a specific reaction to you in the way that they do. So let's read the rest of this here. So it says, it is not enough to rebel in small ways. This is a call to revolution. Focus on what you really want to achieve, regardless of whether it feels so far outside the box that the established order may reject it. Genius, invention, and transformation are rarely comfortable and less likely to be accepted by the mainstream. It may be time for you to say no to the way of your group, take a stand, and make real changes. It could be that the structure of your inner world is alerting you to the need for a complete overhaul. This is a time for transformation, so let go of the fear of change. Your intuition will lead you through the darkness. There is no turning back now. Trust that light will dawn. Epiphanies will surely lead to miracles. So one other thing I also want to mention with this card is the fact that this could also be hinting at some of my Scorpios being visually different than other people. So let's say you grow up in a very conservative environment, but you have a lot of piercings or have a lot of tattoos, or you feel comfortable with, clothing being above or below your knee at a certain length. Just I'm trying to think of things that are like visually different than what some societies may say is acceptable. So you'll kind of know how or if that part applies to you, but there's definitely this feeling where you just look a little bit different, and not in a good or bad way. It's just that, again, there's sort of these like reminders to other people that, are you even living the life you want to be living, or are you living the life you've been told you're supposed to live? And you guys, Scorpio, are not the ones to avoid being different, because you guys know the pain of living a life that involves a lack of authenticity, a life where you are unconscious to your own inner desires, your own need to have your external environment match your internal environment, especially in regards to personal expression. I think too, speaking of personal expression, it is becoming like increasingly important or valuable or desired and needed by my Scorpios to have that connection between how you look on the outside and how you feel on the inside. So again, this could be something, for example, like gender expression. This could be something like, again, needing your personal style to match how you internally feel. That way, when you go out into the world, you feel confident because people see you for who you see yourself as. That sort of experience where you need the world to recognize that this is who I am as a person. Whether or not you like me is one thing, but whether or not I like myself enough to go ahead and be me publicly is a whole different thing. So that's also an experience I feel like some of my Scorpios are having. So let's talk about this rune before we go any further. So this is the rune that you guys have today. Can you see that? Okay. And so this rune is all about, similarly to the Death Tarot, a dying of an old way of being, a ending of a way of existing. It can talk about things like enlightenment, feeling a sense of, purpose and connection. I want to say, especially like connection to self, that may feel very purposeful, almost like in existing externally in the way you want to. It maybe, for example, also being like a political move or a revolt against systems of oppression, things like that. But also, too, just a general theme of like connection. So, this again could be connection to other people and how you impact them, connection to self, etc. So, the next card I want to talk about here is this In Bulk Awakening card. So the awakening card for me really, again, I feel like confirms sort of what we're talking about here. So for Scorpios, you guys are indirectly awakening other people and also to going through your own awakening. You are not at your end of your process for self-expression. I think partly because for you guys, self-expression is sort of this continuous state of adjusting when you have internally adjusted in some way, because we go through life and we have different experiences, and those experiences impact us, whether negatively or positively. And then we make changes, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. And all of those changes internally then become changes that we externally make as well, so that we always feel like we match internally and externally. And I hope that makes sense. So with the healer card, this is kind of talking about through that process of you experiencing life and being impacted either positively or negatively, having this experience where when you are going through periods of time that you would identify as healing periods, and this could be a lot of such. It doesn't necessarily mean that it is something that is emotionally heavy. This could just simply mean that you are, getting tired from work or needing to just take a break just because, that's how you're feeling. Nothing crazy is going on, but you just feel like this would be a good time for me to take a break. And so I feel like some of the ways in which you choose to do this are really aligned with things that are related to complementary medicine. And surprisingly enough, if you did not know, things like tarot, for example, fall into that category of contemporary medicine. I remember as part of my, mental health treatment at one point in time, I had spent some time at a residential treatment facility for my mental health. And at that treatment facility, they actually had regular sessions where people would come and do Reiki. People would come and do like group tarot readings as a way to just kind of like reconnect with yourself. And so I share that because maybe it doesn't initially come to mind that things like this can be helpful. They don't substitute for, the science-based things or evidence-based things like, therapy and group therapy and things like CBT or DBT skills. But they definitely can have their place. This could also be things like aromatherapy, music, tapping, like how you like, like tap different parts of your body to experience, release or other different things that may be helpful to you at the moment. This could be acupuncture, this could be hypnosis, anything that kind of falls into that contemporary or complementary medicine, especially in the field of like mental health. So connected to that, what we're talking about, this card here says balance spirituality and practicality. So with this card here, the balancing spirituality with practicality, this really reminds me, I guess similar to what I mentioned at the beginning of the reading, where, if you find it helpful to have non-spiritual approaches to things that you need solutions to. So for example, say you are really into improving your mental health and you can't afford therapy and you still want to do introspective work, but you find that, oftentimes when you come across tarot readings, it's very like new age, very much so like, cleanse your energy and don't think bad thoughts, those sorts of things. I feel like that's not what is helpful for you guys. And, no shade to the people where that is their thing, that's what resonates with them. But I feel like what you guys find most helpful is practical tools and tips, more so than non-concrete concept that people try to apply to very concrete things like mental health challenges, that sort of thing. I hope that makes sense. So there's sort of this experience of trying to balance the complementary medicines, or not even balance, but more so, I feel like there's this approach where the complementary medicine you do in a way where it's not connected to some type of spirituality or religion, but you still find it effective. So let's say, for example, you meditate. It wouldn't necessarily be for religious or spiritual reasons, but because you see a mental health benefit to this. And also too, with meditation, I regulate emotions better and all of those different things. So you may be finding that you are going out of your way to find things that are skills that people have kind of pushed as being spiritual, when in fact some of these skills can just be used in an evidence-based way. So, you may be having this experience where you're needing to separate the two. That way you can really reap the benefit without having it become detrimental. And I mentioned the detrimental part because I almost feel like, again, because a large part of your reason was talking about stepping away from the ways in which you may have been indoctrinated, there may be this experience where you realize that, wait a second, like this way of interacting or doing certain things is just another way to indoctrinate me, for as an example, or another way to push values and beliefs onto me when I have my own values and beliefs. I just want to use these skills, tools, and tips, that sort of thing. So that's kind of the experience that I get that you guys are having. You guys aren't doing things by the book. You guys aren't doing things in a way in which you are being told. Again, for example, if you are told that tarot has to be spiritual and you need to connect to a god or to gods or a goddess, that's not the experience that you guys need or are having. You are using tarot as a tool for introspection, or to relate, or to have confirmation of an experience that you are having, that sort of thing. So the next card that we have here is a self-forgiveness card. And it says, I forgive myself for staying in places I no longer belong due to fear of what may happen should I admit I want more. I choose to believe that I am constantly expanding into my infinite potential, and change is an inevitable side effect that allows me to flow into spaces more suitable to me. So this again, kind of full circle in a way where there's this reflection period of, maybe for some of you, you have these thoughts where it's like that. I wish I would have left my religion that I grew up with sooner, or I wish I would have been more comfortable with wearing certain clothes sooner so I could have expressed myself a specific way quicker. But also, too, again, maybe you felt like you moved from one set of beliefs that you were taught to another set of beliefs that you felt like you were taught and didn't align with you, and you may be having an experience like that, like, I wish I would have never done that. So there's sort of this experience where you'll realize, or maybe get to a point of realizing that, I always say it on this channel frequently because I never want you guys to forget that you are always doing the best you can in the present moment with the knowledge and skills that you guys have. So as you were kind of moving through these different stages of life, trying to figure out your morals and values, you phased through maybe different types of religions or different types of spirituality until you got to a point where you felt like, and this doesn't have to apply to all my Scorpios for it, but I do feel like many of my Scorpios, where you got to a point where you may feel like I didn't actually ever need religion or spirituality to have morals or values. But I also feel like Scorpio, you guys feel like I wish I would have been taught life skills or emotional regulation skills instead of religion. Like I almost feel like you guys maybe are having this experience where it's like, why wasn't I taught those things in lieu of religion? Like this experience where you may have felt like religion was given to you in a way in which it was to substitute taking care of your mental health, where now at the stage of life that you're in or the age that you're at, you feel like it should have been the opposite, where you should have been taught emotional skills and emotional regulation. And if in addition to that you found religion or spirituality helpful to you in some other area, like wanting to feel connection to a community of people who share your morals and values, then you could have had that experience. And so I hope that makes sense. So let's talk about what cards are remaining. So we have synchronicity as the first one. And so I feel like synchronicity is really related to coming across other people, maybe like on social media, or even for some of you guys in real life, where people are talking about that experience of wishing that they had skills, life skills, mental health skills, emotional regulation skills in lieu of spirituality or religion. And having that confirmed for you and finding people who have learned skills in that area, improved in that area, done emotional regulation in that area, sort of this again like separation of spirituality and practicality regarding those areas, and really feeling like because you keep coming across this, it kind of confirms your gut feeling about what you felt would have been most helpful or needed. And also too, for some of my Scorpios, maybe sharing that with other people. And so we have simplicity here. So whichever ways in which you find that you are sharing this or coming across this information or practicing this, all of those forms end up being very simplistic, where it doesn't have to be, this very grand 10-step thing. It could be something as small as I'm trying to be more emotionally regulated, and so I start to get involved in my hobbies or in new hobbies. Maybe you pick up crochet or knitting, or you pick up book reading, or you pick up meditation, or you get an emotional support animal, or you start hanging out with more friends who you can relate to and who look like you and express themselves in a way that you like to as well. And so next we have here unconscious. So although you have had this experience where you are and have become very aware of the ways in which you have been influenced and impacted by indoctrinations and teachings about how you should or shouldn't have been, you are continuing to uncover unconscious things. I almost feel like Scorpio, you never stop figuring out what those things are, but also too, figuring out the ways in which they have impacted you. Like that's what I feel like, moving forward, some of or a lot of what you're experiencing is how has it impacted me. Maybe for example, you were bullied as a kid, and now as an adult, or when you were a teenager, having this experience of like body dysmorphia, and or having this experience where you not at a weight where a doctor would consider you being overweight, but yet still you see yourself as overweight, or the complete opposite. Or maybe you dislike your body regardless of how you look. I know I can definitely put my hand up for that one, and also too, weirdly, for the same reasons, like being bullied. In middle school, I was average, I guess, in regards to how you would expect a kid my age to weigh or look or, whatever kind of qualifications a doctor would give you in assessing, your height and weight and health and all of those things. But nonetheless, kids still bullied me about my weight and told me that I was fat and that I was ugly. And, as an adult, that impacted me because even when I was really active at a certain time in my life, I still hated how I looked. I still felt like I was super unhealthy and super overweight. And now that I've gotten to a stage of my life where I've put on a lot of weight, I realized that my confidence was never really positively impacted by losing weight. And so now, kind of going through this period of figuring out how can I feel like I love my body and I'm confident in spite of what I've been told about my body and my self-worth regarding my weight. So also too, that sort of experience where you with you guys where you're figuring out how has life experiences impacted you, how has interactions with people growing up within your family unit, friends when you were younger, peers when you were younger, how have all these different interactions impacted you? Also too, again, coming back to religion, how has that impacted you? Again, did you grow up in a religion that was conservative and taught you that something that was very intrinsic to you was bad? Again, this could be something like your sexual identity, and if you were told that your sexual identity was evil or a sin, really kind of wrestling with what that causes in you as an adult. Maybe it makes sexual interactions or, sex with other people really difficult. Maybe there is a sense of shame, in having that interaction because of what you've been told growing up within a religion, as an example. So we have the next card here, Primordial. So what I feel Primordial talks to is realizations that I am not wrong, I am not bad, I am not sinful. I am just me. I'm a human. I exist. I experience life. I love. I cry. I laugh. And all of it is normal and all of it is okay. And maybe I've been told and taught that I am not okay. I am not pure or, okay to just be who I am. And instead figuring out that, what? It's not true. And also too, what comes up is like, ugh, I feel like for some of my Scorpios, it's sort of this feeling of like, why do I have to be the only one who kind of knows what's going on, who knows about social constructs or knows about social norms or knows about the history of certain things that make you very knowledgeable about the fact that, let's say for example you belong to the LGBT community, that regardless of the names that we, now in 2023 use to identify certain groups of people, those groups of people have always existed throughout humanity. And although we, today people may say, well, why haven't I seen them? Well, there's a difference from not seeing people because it wasn't safe for them to be visible versus them not having existed, and you kind of knowing that we have always existed. It just has not been safe for us to be visible. Again, as an example. So silence here coming in to say that I'm not going to be silent anymore. I'm not going to hide anymore. I'm not going to pretend that I don't exist anymore, because a life not existing is a life not worth living. That sort of experience. Again, I know that sounds very extreme, but I feel like for a lot of my Scorpios, again, the pain of not being able to exist. And I think that maybe you, whether or not you have, but if you have had experiences where it's made you hit rock bottom not being able to exist, or made you realize how upset or uncomfortable or unhappy or dissatisfied you have been not feeling like you can exist, you saying, F it, I'm gonna exist. I'm here and I'm happy to be here, and there is nothing wrong with me. And release coming in to say that I'm releasing any of the things that, again, unconsciously were told to you, unconsciously were told that you shouldn't be like or you shouldn't do, and just letting it go and saying, I have to just be me. I have to enjoy life. I have to feel free. I have to feel autonomous and authentic. I love those two words together for you guys. Autonomy and authenticity. that is what you guys are embodying and needing to embody. So much so. I want to get a card here from this deck before we wrap up. So this card here says physical intimacy. The topic is up for discussion. Choose healthy/balanced relationships. Doing it for the right reason. So if you guys are here and you are, having relationships come to mind at all, this is, relating to having experiences, either platonic or this could be familial relationships, romantic or platonic relationships, but having this experience of intimacy where because you are at a point in your life where you're just like, I'm just gonna be me. It makes it very clear to you who you can be vulnerable with, who you can open up to, who is accepting of you. Like that's kind of what I feel like I get from this physical intimacy card, because it reminds me of like being naked before someone, something that is, very vulnerable for a lot of people, but taking it outside of the realm of just the bedroom and putting it out into, like, if we think of it as the grand scheme of just like life and reality, being sort of naked to everyone you sort of cross by, because again, you are presenting in a way that is so authentic to you that it becomes very clear who is or who is not for you. Now let's get one more card from this deck. So I see a card here that flipped up. Let me find it really quickly. All right, yeah. So the last card that you guys have for today is Stoke, riding the wave of positive manifestation, excited, dream come through, great things happening. So as a just a final ending message for you guys, Scorpio, that you guys, if you're not already feeling excited about life, you will be feeling excited about life, excited about your future, excited about the present moment more than anything. Like you guys, and I say this in a way where it's like a positive experience, may not even be worried about the future because you're just enjoying the present moment so much, just living in the present moment so much, experiencing life in the present moment just in such a full way that you don't even have the mental capacity to, think ahead, as in like, oh, I hope the future is good. It's like, no, man, the present is just so good. I'm gonna just live in this moment type of feeling. So yeah, I love that for you guys. And because it also says to your dreams come true, I feel like you guys can take full credit for that because you've made changes, you've done so much internal work and kind of again express that outwardly, to have it benefit your life and your mental health, and you continue to do the work and it continues to benefit you. So Scorpio, again, as always, I want to remind you that you are always doing the best you can in the present moment with the knowledge and the skills that you have at this time. And I hope that you found this reading to be confirmation of what you're experiencing in this present moment. So thank you again for being here, Scorpio. I hope that you found this reading to be helpful, to be enlightening, and I will see you in the next reading. Bye, guys.